What's up guys, Human Carjack here, and today we have a problem with the Forester.
Oh brother, this guy stinks!
So nothing new, we've dealt with a lot of issues in the past, so I want to go ahead and take you guys through exactly what is wrong with the car. So more recently we were seeing a good amount of smoke coming out of the exhaust under higher acceleration, so higher RPM on the highway and stuff. I don't think it's head gasket issues, so what we did is we went ahead and pulled the spark plugs, and I'm going to go ahead and insert some footage of the inside of the cylinders. So as you guys could see there was no coolant or any sort of moisture in the cylinder heads there, so pretty standard stuff. So a little bit of buildup, but nothing crazy. That wasn't really indicative of any sort of head issues or any sort of issues to the block, thank God, because those of you who have been around a while on the channel know that we recently rebuilt this block. We only have about 25,000 miles on the IAG Stage 2 short block. So that is one thing that we could rule out. The second thing that we found, and I found this a few times, we currently have the oil draining, but when we removed these skid plates and the skid pad and everything, we found an abundance of oil. So let me see if I could show you guys over here. We found a good amount on the turbo inlet right there. We found a good amount on the oil pan itself. I think the oil pan, just a bit of sweating there. I don't think it's a big issue, but the main issue is coming from here and up top. Let me show you that. So right over here seems to be the biggest culprit. This is the turbo sump hose, and that is where the Perrin sump restrictor was originally installed. Now what I see that was done, and I never really looked at this too closely because I didn't install this. This came with my Perrin Air Oil Separator when I used to have it. Now we have the Crawford one over here. But what I see from other installs is that this piece was supposed to come with worm gear clamps, and instead it was installed with zip ties. So this thing has been profusely just pissing oil.
Ma! Come get this fucking dog, it's pissing all over the floor!
And I found a bunch of oil, not on top of the turbo thankfully, but just all over that turbo inlet. So yeah, so I think that is one of our main culprits, along with the turbo inlet itself, possibly. So when we had originally installed this, I had mentioned that I had gone through like 2 of these, because the way that this one works, the silicone hosing, there's this wire on the inside of these. So when you go ahead and cut it, you don't get the straightest cut. So I do have a bit of a gap here on the backside. So what I'm thinking is we're gonna go ahead and possibly install either a Grimmspeed or a Cobb turbo inlet. But before we go ahead and purchase the turbo inlet piece, we're gonna go ahead and conduct a smoke test. So we went ahead and bought a smoke tester. We're gonna go ahead and place it in the intake, smoke it out, and see what kind of basically where the smoke comes out of is going to be indicative of where our oil leak is. I think we might get a little bit coming through here. Even if we don't get anything coming through here, this just looks terrible, and it really should have been installed with the provided worm gear clamps. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And we're also gonna look at different parts of the engine too that might have smoke coming out of them. So we went ahead and attached our cable here. This is for the battery terminals. You have an on and off switch, and these are your red and black battery terminals. So you attach it right to your battery. This is the inside of the lid. You have this little wick here. And what I'm gonna go ahead and do is place this little ball inside. I don't really know the purpose of it. I saw another video that says it helps you determine the oil level that you have in there. So basically I'm gonna drop this in here, and then we're going to put some of this oil in here too. We're going to cover it up with the cover, and then we're going to place this hook right on top so that we can hang it from the top of the hood latch over there. This is the setup. So we have it hanging from this hook over here. We're going to go ahead and hook it up to the battery, and on the switch here there is a heat only setting. So we're going to put that on for 3 minutes. It's going to allow the oil in here to heat up, and then we're going to be at operating temperature. Then we can go ahead and see when the smoke starts to pour out of here. I'm going to fill it or supply it right into there and see if we get any leaks. So we've heated this thing up to operating temperature. I'm wearing a mask because it's not a good idea to inhale this in the form of smoke. So we're going to go ahead and put the heat auxiliary on. Should be good. We'll go ahead and place it right through here. This cone adapter would be the ideal thing to get if you're going to go ahead and do this smoke test in your intake system, but we didn't get one, so that's why we're using the microfiber method. Alright guys, so after a few minutes of conducting this smoke test, we concluded that there aren't any leaks, or at least any real visible ones. Since we have this thing all set up, we went ahead and also connected it to the brake booster vacuum line. Don't roast me in the comments if this isn't the right line. I believe it is through my research. So we went ahead and taped off the intake over here. Not taped off, but we put a rubber glove on top with a rubber band, reinstalled the MAF sensor, and I'm just going to go ahead and take a look at the bottom of the car again. So far we don't see anything, but we're going to give it another minute or two. So I think we're good. We looked in every single part of the engine bay and underneath as well, and we don't see anything, so that's a great sign. No leaks here, so awesome. So we're going to move on to removing that hose now. Okay, so we removed the front fan that is in the way of this hose over here, so you just have to disconnect that little fan connector cable, right? And then the line that we're trying to get to is right there. Alright guys, so we finally managed to get the turbo sump hose off. That's the one over here on the left. Clearly the one that's covered in tons and tons of oil. It pretty much caked onto this this little sheath over here. And then this is the new one. So it's a little bit different design, or color rather. The design looks pretty much the same side by side, but one is black and one is white. This was a real pain in the butt to take off. You guys could see just how much oil was on this this sensor over here. Just look at that. So you can see like my hands too, just covered. So we're gonna go ahead and clean that up with a little bit of brake cleaner, and then what we have to do is we still have the turbo sump, the Perrin turbo sump connected down there. So we're gonna go ahead and remove that little piece as well. We're gonna cut this one. You have to cut it about an inch right around where that sheet starts. And then we have to insert our, actually, you know what? I don't think we have to cut it. I think we can actually just reuse that piece that's over there, that smaller piece, and yeah, just reattach our turbo sump, but this time with the worm gear clamp instead of the really crappy zip ties. And here is the turbo sump restrictor that we just took out. Look at how gunked up it is on the inside. Really freaking dirty, man. So so we're gonna go ahead and use a little bit of a degreaser and yeah, you know, clean it up. So, interesting discovery, guys, that I just made. So, I was just taking a Q-tip and I was cleaning out the inside of the Perrin turbo sump restrictor, and I don't know if you guys could see that very well because it's not focusing. Let's see if I can get that to focus. Yeah, so this is the Q-tip that I was just cleaning with, and on one end we got a bunch of like this like frothy, gunky stuff out, but the main thing, this was one of 3 pieces. Let's see if you can see it from there. This is like a little piece of rubber. So it seems like maybe the inside part of the hose was coming apart and it was blocking off the turbo sump restrictor. So this is like one of 3 pieces, so and they're pretty big. So it wasn't until we got pretty deep in there with the Q-tip that we found these. So this may have led to our smoke coming out the exhaust pipe. All right, so what I was attempting to do was take off this little rubber piece after cleaning off the turbo sump restrictor, but it's pretty stubborn. So I think we're just gonna go ahead and leave it. We're gonna go ahead and route a worm gear clamp onto the bottom of it, and then we're gonna pass the turbo sump restrictor back on. So clamp it up nice and tight. And then I made a mistake. I don't have to actually cut the 1-inch piece because that would be for the upper hose, and that is the piece that was originally cut to fit the turbo sump restrictor. So this is like the lower hose. This attaches into that sensor that we went ahead and cleaned, which is right over here. So yeah, so then we'll be good to go. We just have to piece it all together. This bottom piece too is a little bit different because the original one has this clamp over here. We don't have that clamp on this, but we do have worm gear clamps, so we can just use those. Alright guys, so we did our best here to get the worm gear clamps all tied up there. So we have one, let's get focus there. We got one on the bottom of the small hose over here. Right, so that's the top one over there, and the one on the bottom there, that's the one that's on the bottom of the Perrin turbo sump restrictor. Right, so we got that, and then on the bottom over here, this is the bottom of that new hose that we just got. We went ahead and installed a worm gear clamp there. Had to give it a lot of torque, actually. Had to tighten it down quite a bit. what seems like, I don't know if it's just like how this is bent or how I routed it, but it seems like this is like a tad bit longer than the stock one. I could be wrong, but yeah, but everything fits pretty nicely. Nothing's making contact where it shouldn't be, so I think we should be good. So we just got to work backwards now. We can go ahead and put on the fan, reconnect our intake and MAF sensor, and then we should be good to go. Everything's buttoned up and ready to go. The only thing we have to do now is do an oil change. So we got our oil filter off, and we'll go ahead and complete that. Went ahead and topped off all the fluids, including the coolant and the oil. The coolant was a little bit low, so we're gonna go ahead and keep an eye on that, and everything looks to be good. So we're gonna also monitor how much exhaust fumes come out the back. Just go ahead and shut this, and let's hope that we fix this. Yes, we did it. All right, let's see what we got going on in the back here. We got some smoke. Hold on, let me get a flashlight for you guys. All right, some smoke coming out the back. Hopefully this is just residual. Looking like no leak so far. Not bad, not bad. A little bit of smoke burning off over there. We spilled a little bit of coolant, but that's no big deal. All right, I'm not seeing any problems over here. Let's go check if the smoke in the back has stopped at all. So here, nothing. Here, still got a whole bunch. So since we're here and we couldn't get rid of the smoke entirely, we're gonna go ahead and replace the PCV valve as well. This I had actually bought like 2 or 3 years ago. I don't remember exactly why I bought it, but I was like, oh, you know what, just in case I ever need to replace it, I'm gonna go ahead and replace it. So the way this works is this has to have an audible rattle sound, kind of like this does. So our original PCV is behind the intercooler, somewhere down here. So we're gonna go ahead and remove the intercooler, get to that, see exactly what's going on. We could always clean that if it's not in too bad of shape, but since we have the new one, we're gonna go ahead and swap that as well. So we're gonna start by removing the 8mm worm gear clamp that's holding in the charge pipe here. All right, so there's one there, and then there's one down here. And we'll make our way to the other side. Driver's side, it looks like we have a 12mm. And there's another 12mm on this side I forgot about. And there's another small worm gear clamp on the driver's side as well. I don't know if you guys can see that right there. Just gonna use a flathead to get that off. So I really didn't expect to find this much oil inside the intercooler. That doesn't seem normal. That's quite a bit of pooling there. Let's get a closer look at that. I should see that. Yeah, that's a lot. Let's check this side too. A bit there too. The job that we did over here with the replacement hose and in combination with the PVC fitting, the valve, hopefully we'll go ahead and remedy our issue. If not, then we may have an issue with our turbo. So I've been researching this stuff now for the last 24 hours or so, because today is the next day. I don't know if you guys have noticed, this isn't the same day. So I had lots of feedback, one of them being that it could be my valve seals, that they're not fully closing, and that's what letting out the excess exhaust and the fumes. But the better conclusion that I think it is that there's an issue with the turbo. So that little rubber piece that I showed you guys earlier on the Q-tip that I went ahead and pried out of the turbo sump restrictor, I believe that that could be a gasket or some sort of rubber piece that is used to seal the turbo. I think that might have blown itself apart and gotten itself into the system. If that's the case, then the turbo is not sealing properly, and that's why we have our fumes issue, the smoke issue. If that isn't the case, if the PCV valve change along with the hose remedies it, then we're good to go. So fingers crossed. All right, so I think we've located the PCV valve. It is on the passenger side. So it's right over there where the flashlight is shining. Right where that worm gear clamp is, that's where we're gonna go ahead and unscrew that and pull off the hose over there. All right, cool. We should be able to pull that hose off now. All right, we got it. So let's go ahead and inspect it and compare it to the new one. All right, so side-by-side comparison. We've got old one on the left, new one on the right, and pretty gunked up on the inside here, if you guys could see that. Where's my flashlight? Woman. So this is our gunked up one. Let's see what kind of sounds it makes. You can barely hear it. That's crazy. All right, and let's see the new one. Ton of play there. Try it again. Barely. That's nuts. Big shout out to Last Human's Garage for posting a video of this, of him doing this, the cleaning of his PCV valve, because he let us know the torque spec for this. So it's 17 foot-pounds. And now we just gotta work backwards and reinstall the intercooler. All right, guys, moment of truth here. So we have everything buttoned up again. We didn't put that little air duct piece in yet, but we're gonna go ahead and give it a startup. Place your bets now. My prediction is that we're still gonna have a little bit of smoke, and hopefully it'll kind of burn off as we go. Another thing that I heard that hopefully is the case, that hopefully if we do a lot of driving, then it'll burn off whatever excess oil has remained in the intercooler or in the PCV system or wherever else it may be lying. Hopefully it's not the turbo, and we really hope it's not an issue with the block. So, let's see. Got a little bit of smoke for now. That's to be expected. Let's check for any leaks. Everything seems to look good so far. We're still getting an excess amount of smoke out of the exhaust, but we're gonna go ahead and let it ride up to operating temperature, like 120 degrees plus, and then we'll see what's going on over here. Well, folks, the saga continues. As you've seen, we still have a ton of smoke even after revving it up and stuff. It was idling for quite a bit, so we did get up to operating temperature around 145 degrees. So we're gonna go ahead and give this a drive tomorrow to work. Hopefully we don't end up on the side of the road. Everything sounds really healthy though, so that's the weird thing about it. It sounds great. We don't detect any leaks, but it could be the valve seals at this point. So yeah, so we'll see. So I have an appointment scheduled for this Thursday in 2 days to go ahead and get it inspected by some Subaru professionals. Right before I go ahead and attend that appointment, I'm going to go ahead and go to my brother-in-law, who is an engineer. He's got some high-tech snap-on, basically the OBD2 scan tools, and we're going to go ahead and see what the issue may be. I think he said that we can actually have it plugged in, having the car running, and then as it's running, it could actually give us some diagnostic feedback. So maybe we'd be able to pinpoint it. So it's either, I really think at this point, unless I can drive it and burn off everything, whatever excess is in there, I really think it's either valve seals or it's the turbo. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the turbo, just because of that little rubber piece like I mentioned. So we shall see once again.